Chapter 45. Are we only just flesh and blood? Question. I studied with the Huichol Indians for a time and felt a moment of transcendence while dancing the deer dance. I was befriended by a Huichol shaman in his 80s. These men and women study for at least 25 to 30 years and claim many powers, including the power to heal. When my shaman friend Tata fell ill, he went to the mountains to consult the most famous and powerful of all the healers, but his kidneys still failed. On his deathbed, he expressed surprise that he too would die. Answer. I have heard it said that reality is that which does not go away, even if you don't believe in it. This case sounds like a perfect illustration of that epigram. Humans do have abilities as healers. I did some healing work myself for years, which is largely about clearing away obstructions to the natural process of healing. What we do not have is the ability to live a life that is not a human life, or to help someone else to live such a life with all that entails: old age, illness, suffering, and death. We humans are a species in the animal kingdom, and all animals age, become ill, and die, unless they die before old age and senescence set in, due to early illness, war, murder, accident, suicide, or other misadventure. Certainly none of that can be denied. Some people tried to create two separate categories: number 1, humans; number 2, animals, with the intention of claiming that humans are the specially created children of God, different not just in appearance but in kind from our non-human brothers and sisters. But as we learn more about the intelligence that other animals besides us really possess, that is increasingly untenable. In fact, we may not even be the most intelligent among animals on this planet. We already know that whales, for example, are highly intelligent and possess exquisitely evolved modes of communication among themselves. But because they have no need to work for a living or invent and build things, we are limited in our ability to assess their level of intelligence. So when someone harbors beliefs that require denying any of the above, I consider such a person to be engaged in wishful thinking, which is a type of self-created delusional escape hatch. Based on what you wrote, it seems that Tata was deluded in that way. And of course, the medicine man who taught that stuff to Tata was deluded, just like his teacher, and his teacher's teacher, etc. This nonsense is passed down from parent to child, and enters our minds by osmosis from the wider cultural surround. The roots of that delusion lie, I say, in fear, superstition, and aversion to impermanence. Anyone reading this may disagree, and given the intense religious conditioning to which the majority of children are subjected from birth, I am sure that some will disagree, and perhaps even feel insulted. That's fine by me. Feel what you must. I say what I see, and seek neither agreement nor approval. Questioner 2. Robert, you say, quote, "What we do not have is the ability to live a life that is not a human life, or to help someone else to live such a life with all that entails: old age, illness, suffering, and death," unquote. My question is this: what if we do have that ability, but just don't know about it? Answer. Your approach last week seemed more about wanting to debate and pin me down with words, rather than wanting to understand what I am saying. But let's give it another shot. Dreaming up what-ifs will never end, no matter what I say. There will always be the next what-if. What if there really is a fairy living at the foot of the garden, but I can't see her? What if I would be able to see her if only I had sufficient faith in her presence there? What if Jesus really does await me in heaven, assuming I don't fuck it up by bad behavior or failure to have faith? I have zero interest in such hypotheticals myself, nor do I have any way at all of proving the things I say, although to me they are not hypothetical. To me they are phenomenology. But I understand that others, and you may be one of them, enjoy fantasy and like to keep all options open. Fine by me. Knock yourself out. Questioner 2. I feel that you are trying to avoid my question. Why can't you just answer directly? What if we do have the ability to be more than human, but just don't know it. Answer: I am not trying to avoid your question. I just don't understand what you are asking. I can offer nothing but simple, down-to-earth answers, so any questions must be simple, down-to-earth questions. If you have one like that, please state it plainly, and I will give it my full attention. Questioner 2. I can see I will not get an answer. I really asked a very simple question. Are we, humans and animals and everything else, just flesh and blood? Is that good enough? Answer: Oh, are we just flesh and blood is the question. Now I think I understand. I will reply without equivocation and with all the honesty at my disposal. But before I do, indulge me in a short exploration of the natural history of questions such as that. Suppose I gave you what you are asking me for, a yes or no answer to that question. How would that help you? I can't see how it would. Suppose I said, for example, no, we are not just flesh and blood, bodies and brains. That is just blatant materialism. How can anyone deny that we live in a world of spirits? Carl Sagan may have called the world of spirits the demon-haunted world, but he was a materialist and a scientist to boot. He may have felt energized, thrilled, delighted, and enthralled to find himself present in a universe beyond measure, but at heart he was an atheist, lost in scientism. He and his scientific cohorts may claim that our bodies and brains evolved in a natural way from older, more basic life forms. They may claim that all life on Earth has one common ancestor, and that human consciousness evolved in the same natural way as brains, beginning with the initial chemical sensitivities of our most distant microscopic forebears. They may claim such things, but those claims show their ignorance of spiritual truth. Bodies and brains don't really exist. We are only dreaming bodies and brains. This world is Brahman only. We humans only seem to exist. The fossils that undergird the common ancestor theory are only dream fossils, and the theory of evolution by natural selection is only a dream theory put forth by dream scientists. Our real nature is pure consciousness, and nothing really exists but God. Then, on hearing that, and assuming that you had really wanted an answer and were not just trying to begin a debate, you would either believe me or not. If you believed me, you would know nothing more for certain about this question than before you asked it. You would only have made an authority of me, whom you have never even met, except as a voice on a Facebook page. Robert says that we are more than just flesh and blood. That is credulity. What makes you think that Robert knows anything with certainty about any such question, or that the Dalai Lama does? Or suppose I said, God, that's just some idea humans once cooked up and now dish out to account for the power of nature and to paper over their doubts and fears. You and I are flesh and blood like any other animal, a bonobo, for example, except that the stories we have in our minds are most likely somewhat different from the stories a bonobo has in its mind, but perhaps not very different. After all, a bonobo's brain is very much like ours. We share 98.7% of our DNA with a bonobo, and like us, they are tribally organized and show remarkable social intelligence, as well as physical and mental abilities of a high order. Then you would either believe me when I said that bonobos and humans could sit down to dinner together if the humans weren't so speciesist, or you would have some esoteric reason to disbelieve it. For example, the holy books say we are made in the image of God, and were given dominion over the animals, so it can't be that we and the bonobos are really such close cousins. Or you might say, all that about DNA is only the physical world, the world of flesh and blood. But what about the spiritual world, Robert? If you went that way, you would be defacing my reply with the second-hand beliefs you already entertain and love to advocate, which would have nothing to do with hearing my reply or anything else I have ever said. That defacement would stop you from hearing me fairly in the first place, which, by the way, you have yet to do. I wonder if you get this. If you look to any outside authority at all in questions such as this, you would still not have a definitive answer, because no one has such an answer to give. Instead, you would have an authoritative answer to stir into the disorder in your mind already produced by soaking up answers from others who have no real answers to give. Having solicited a fresh answer and received one, you will have either to denigrate it and discount it, or accept it and deal with it. Thus you will be forced into a posture of either greater disbelief or greater credulity, a posture based not on any real evidence or lack of it, but upon your own psychological needs, some of them, by the way, demonstrably demonstrated by twin studies encoded in DNA. I promised a straight answer. Here it is. Are we only flesh and blood? If you mean, is there a myself that goes on existing when one's flesh and blood have been consumed by other organisms, as is the way of nature, I have no inside information on that. But if you press me for an opinion, very likely no. I assume, but do not know, that when the brain dies, the lights go out for good and all. To me, and with some reliance on Occam's razor, it seems most likely that myself is something that a brain does, part of what a brain does while running the rest of the organism as well, astounding and mysterious as that may seem. This view is not mere fantasy, like the beliefs of Christianity, Islam, or Hinduism, for which there is no evidence at all, but only testimony. People can say anything, and tradition. Old does not equal true. I have no interest in either religious fantasy or traditional explanations. Admittedly, there is no way to prove that a brain is needed for consciousness and not the other way around. But it is suggestive that as parts of the brain are damaged or die, parts of myself disappear along with those self-same organic structures in predictable ways. Data like that cannot be dismissed out of hand. Still, if consciousness really were prior to brains, as per the metaphysics of the Hindu Jnanis, then we really would be dreaming up brains and bodies, when actually there are no brains and bodies. In that view, this world is only a dream in the mind of God, and no one can prove that it isn't. You may be surprised to hear that I don't actually care which way all that shakes out. It makes no difference to me at all. I am in this moment always. My being is free fall in apparently endless space. If at death the lights go out and free fall ends, fine by me. In that event, nothing remains to be dealt with. If by some chance good old Robert, or the old boy's essence anyway, is still around, that will be the same dharma as right now. Deal with it moment by moment. What else is there? From this perspective, ego and its natural desires to survive, and even to fantasize transcending biology, do not trouble me. In seeing that now is all we ever have, questions such as yours are unmasked as moot, and die away by their own negligibility. Does that satisfy?